The Member of Parliament for Spelthorne. I feel obliged to remind the House on regular occasions that Spelthorne is not in Lancashire, it is not in Lincolnshire, it is everything south of Heathrow until honourable members get to the River Thames. And honourable members around the House know my constituency well, because it is what they see when they take off from Heathrow Airport or when they land there. I was selected as the Member of Parliament for the candidate to be the Member of Parliament for Spelthorne 4 days into the general election. And having spent 25 years in the army, obviously I love a map. There's a very good saying that if you don't understand what's going on, get a bigger map. And so, of course, I looked at a map of Spelthorne and was very struck by these 4 massive blocks of blue. And so I looked into them, and these are 4 raised reservoirs which hold half London's drinking water. And being a practical person, I thought to myself, well, there's not many votes there. I secondly thought to myself, I can't really build any houses there, because Spelthorne is 67% greenbelt and water, and a large chunk of the rest of it is floodplain. And so it is very difficult to know what we might do in terms of meeting our housing targets. You take solar panels, you attach them to plastic floats, you anchor those floats to the bottom of the reservoir, and you string some wires to take an AC current off the floating solar panels. The clever bits, really, in terms of intellectual property, are the anchors, because, as I'm sure honourable members across the House know, reservoirs generally tend to have about a metre, that they vary in depth from time to time, and equally that reservoirs are drained and reassessed on about a 20-year rolling cycle.
I wonder if you would give way on
I would be delighted to give way to my honourable friend.
I thank my honourable and gallant friend for allowing me to intervene on this. We're told that there's nothing new under the sun, but actually I think he's describing something that ticks both of those boxes. It's quite remarkable.
And given that the vast amount of water which is lost to evaporation on our reservoirs every year, if the government decides to pursue this at a grand scale, then we will be saving a great deal more water. The part of my coming here today is to speak to 2 large constituencies within this House. There are 543 constituencies which have reservoirs or man-made water in them. Similarly, we have countless members from across the House who have very difficult decisions to make about putting solar farms on good agricultural land. Yep. And essentially what has happened is that the whole discussion in this area has become a zero-sum game. A BAT has been banging out 6.3 megawatts into Thames Water's own water treatment facility ever since. That is enough to power 2,000 homes. And given that it only covers less than 10% of that reservoir, I'm sure honourable members can see the vast potential. I want to talk about some of the benefits of floating solar, because they are legion. Firstly, and honourable members will have worked this out already, there is the removal of the opportunity cost of putting floating solar panels on Grade A agricultural land. Yeah. If you don't have to put it all over Lincolnshire, and you can put it on the reservoirs, then that land can be used for growing food.
Would my honourable friend give way?
I'd be delighted to give way.
I'm very grateful to my honourable and gallant friend for giving way, and he's talking about the use of prime agricultural land, and food security is part of national security, as is energy security, as indeed is water security. But there is this huge trend, Madam Deputy Speaker, of prime agricultural land being devoted over to solar plants, including in my constituency of Epping Forest, a new plan about to go in for a 237-acre plot between Thornwood and Epping Upland.
I completely agree with my honourable friend, and it is, I hope, going to give hope across the House and therefore across the country that this alternative solution to putting solar panels onto Grade A agricultural land can be, to a certain extent, an answer to a maiden's prayers, because not only does it remove the opportunity costs of putting it on agricultural land, one of the beauties of floating solar is that it is twice as efficient as a land-based system. We've talked about the opportunity cost, we've talked about the doubling of efficiency. Also, and I'm sure honourable members will have worked this out, in my Spelthorne constituency, my 2,000 acres of reservoir are all raised, which means that no one can see the top of them unless they're flying off to Torremolinos or landing from Dubai. In the case of the one on the Queen Elizabeth Reservoir, is 100 tonnes of water a day. It's absolutely extraordinary. And so I know you're thinking, well, Lincoln, I mean, it couldn't get any better. But I have to tell the House that there are still some further benefits. So where these reservoirs are... More, I hear you cry. Where these reservoirs are owned by water companies, and water companies want to use the electricity themselves, there's no requirement for planning permission. And when you consider the turmoil that land-based systems have to go through over many, many years, whereas floating solar can be deployed within a few weeks, compared to the absolute paroxysms that the nation puts itself through before it puts a land-based system. You, Madam Deputy Speaker, and indeed all members of the House and your constituents, the water companies have to use fewer filtrants where the surface has been covered by floating solar. We've covered the evaporative effects, and so really I think that I have made the case for floating...
Before he concludes.
Of course. I thank the honourable members. So, if I say that the installed base of every single solar panel in the United Kingdom is producing 17 gigawatts, okay? Then, if I were to say that we covered 15%, 15% of man-made reservoirs in this country, we would double the national capacity, adding a further 16 gigawatts without touching an inch of agricultural land.